This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas, and I'm doing some ribber lessons on the flatbed Japanese knitting machine. This particular machine, by the way, is a Brother 270. Now suppose you want to do ribbing that is not the usual knitted band. Suppose you wanted to do knit 5, purl 5, knit 5, purl 5. The way to do that is do a regular Japanese cast on, the circular cast on, and then rearrange things. I'll show you how. This is a typical full needle rib needle arrangement, and I'm going from needle number 15 on the main bed on the left to needle number 15 on the main bed on the right. The needles are set at half pitch, which means with the ribber wrapped over half of a needle width, that these gate pegs don't match up. This gate peg is in between these two gate pegs. It also means that the needles won't collide. We do not want the needles to collide as we're working. That could do quite a bit of damage to the needles as they bash into each other. The end needles are on the main bed, and the ribber needles are just a half needle's distance inside. So here's that end needle, and here is the ribber needle. I set the machine the way I always do, all on plane for the cast on, and I begin by bringing the yarn down between the beds and hanging a clothespin on it. The machine is set for plain knitting. However, for this first zigzag row, I do have it on the tightest setting, just like all the other circular cast-ons that I have shown. And I'm going to go ahead and put the yarn in between the two needle beds. And yes, sometimes I accidentally lose hold like I just did, and the yarn goes flying up. And once again, I'm putting a clothespin on it, which works really well, and I'm threading it and going across for the zigzag row. Here's the close-up of the zigzag row, and you can see that I'm using all the needles on the main bed, I'm using all the needles on the ribber, and that it is a half pitch setup with the ribber needle halfway between two of the main bed needles. I'm about to put the comb in, and here I am holding the comb with my thumb at the middle. And here is the middle of the machine. That's where the zero needles are. So I just bring that under and poke it up and pull the wire part of the way out and then push the wire back in. And for this few stitches, I'm going to use, here are the settings of the carriages for the circular rows. The left part buttons in, the right part levers on the ribber. I've set this to tension 2, and I've set this to tension 2, and now I'm going to knit 3 rows for the circular rows. As soon as my circular rows are done, I have to get busy and rearrange the stitches so that I have my knit 5, purl 5. And the first step on that is going to be moving the racking handle so that the stitches line up. Now the gate pegs match and the needles match. I can't knit like this. If I were to push the carriage across, I would have needle collisions. So what I'm going to do is use this double-eyed transfer tool, and I'm going to move these first 5 ribber stitches onto the first 5 main bed needles, because that's my knit 5. I'm just calling everything on the main bed a knit stitch and everything on the ribber a purl stitch. So there are 3 of them. Four. 5 of them. So now I have knit 5, and to do the purl 5, I just have to take this stitch, move it from the main bed needle onto my tool. Now the stitch is on the tool, And I just hook the tool on that ribber needle and pop it on. And I need to do that for 5 stitches. It's a little awkward because I'm trying to not have my hands cover up what I'm doing. But if you do this yourself, of course, you sit squarely in front of the machine and you'll just get a rhythm and it'll go quite easily. So now I have 5 purls, then I'm going to transfer 5 knits up, and I'll do that off camera, and then I'll zoom in and show you how they look. This is how the rearranged stitches look. 5 knits, 5 purls, 5 knits, 5 purls, 5 knits, and 5 purls. Now when I get over to the far right edge, I actually had one more knit stitch than purl stitch, so that very far right stitch is just one stitch on the purl needle. So that's how that's going to look, and I will zoom out so that you can see the larger picture, and then I'm going to knit a few rows. Before I can knit, I set both carriages for plain knitting and bring it up to the normal tension because, as you will recall, it was set for circular knitting. And now I'm going to go ahead and knit. I've done enough rows to make a good sample, so I'm just going to cut the yarn, and I'm going to take the knitting off the machine. As always, I'm going to catch the comb with one hand and just knit across with the empty carriage with the other hand. And now I'm going to remove the weights and remove my clothespin and take the knitting off the comb, and I will get it up on the machine so that it's easy to see the knitting. A natural property of knitting is that it rolls, and the knit stitches roll toward the back and the purl stitches roll toward the front. So if you look at it from the end, see how that's all rolling up? But let me spread it out like it actually would be spread in a real garment so that you can see it. I'm just poking it on the gate pegs, and here's how it looks. And I want you to take note in particular of what a nice edge that full needle rib made. So this would be a completely finished rib edge if you needed it to be finished around the bottom of a skirt or a sweater or some other garment or project. So this is knit 5, purl 5, but that's the same cast on you would use for anything else that isn't really 1 by 1 or 2 by 2. If you wanted 3 in 1 or you wanted 4 in 2, whatever combination that you wanted, or even some sort of uneven combination, could be achieved by just moving the stitches around after doing the full needle rib cast on. Another thought about this is that you have to block ribbing very gently. Obviously, if I blocked this hard, I could have it be that wide. And if I blocked it not at all, it's that wide. So you have to really give some thought before you steam ribbing hard, because it will grow a great deal if it's blocked too hard. So it's a good idea to be ready with the tape measure and looking at your ribbing as you block it, especially when ribbing is all over the garment. So that is how to do an unusual needle arrangement on the ribber.